Hi there. Good morning to everyone. It's morning where I am at the moment. Not sure when you're watching it, what time it'll be, but it's a chilly morning, but lovely day in Cape Town. And very lucky to be having a good friend of mine, somebody I've worked with for many, many years. And right when I started off in digital in the 90s, I've got Mark Parsons with me, and Mark has worked in the Apple field for many, many years. So I'm just going to want to try and catch up with him and see where he thinks things are going, how he's managed in this crazy digital world that we're in, where things change within a few months. You suddenly think you've got it all sorted, and then something new comes out and it all changes. So I think, Mark, just to get us going, if I could just ask you just to tell us how you got into the computer world and how you've found all the changes over the years.
Yeah, good morning, Mark. I don't know how long you've got, because that's quite that could be quite long. It could be a long question. Yeah. But initially, I got into the computer world. I was studying electronics and hardware repair type things in the UK. Never was in an Apple environment, but the company that I was working for went liquidated, and I got offered to go to this Apple store in the northwest of England, which turned out to be one of the bigger Apple stores in the end. And I started from there in repairs, electronics. So I'm electronics trained, and just worked my way up from the bench to the field doing those type of things, and came to South Africa in '94, worked for one of the then larger Apple distributors. There was 3 in the country back then, not just Core. There was a company called H&R. There was Venture Computers, which I was working for, and the Core was a little subsidiary then. But now there's only one, and a few various little contacts and things. I moved to Cape Town, which I love, because I'm originally from a seaside town in the coast of the UK. I'm a bit of a farmer boy down there. And I love the sea. In Cape Town, I made my home since probably about '96. I love it here. It's wonderful. The rain and the wind can be a bit dodgy from time to time, but they call it the Cape of Storms. And I got together with a few of my colleagues, Gaynor MacArthur, who's our current MD at Digicape, and she's doing a wonderful job. And been working with her for about 25 years now, I think. So we formed Digicape in 2001. So we've been going for a long time. Well, it feels a long time, but it is a long time. So and that's a roundabout way. So we've gone from strength to strength. We had one of the first big retail stores in the Cape, and just grew it, and one in Joburg and stuff like that. Yeah, it's fun.
No, look, I mean, I've been working from your guys. I think you had, what was it, Atlantic, and then Digicape, and all the different things over the years that I've worked with you, and it's been amazing. So just before, a lot of the people we work on are Mac. I mean, because I'm in the photographic world and the advertising and design world. Just to get us started, just give us a bit of taste. What are the new things that we can look forward to I think they've got their new conference coming out, Zoom type, whatever conference that's now not the normal one.
Yeah, so they normally do mid-year, so summer for them, it's a bit winter for us, but it's the annual conference called Wwdc. It's the Worldwide Developers Conference. And this is the first time ever that, obviously because of the corona pandemic, they're not doing any visitors to Apple Park and that there for the presentation. So it's completely live streamed online to the world, whereas before tickets used to be scarce. It was really difficult to get into it, but now anyone, if they download the Apple developer WWDC app, they can go and watch some of these developments. Some of them are a bit boring, they're a bit high tech, but it tends to give you an idea of where Apple are heading, in terms of what they're up to and what they're doing. So from an Apple standpoint, everyone knows Apple play pretty close to the chest when it comes to new developments and what they're doing. We're the same. We're in the same boat as everyone else. Is we sit there and we wait for the keynote to see, is there a new Mac? Is there a new laptop? Is there a new thing for the watch or whatever it is? So we don't get any prior announcements to that. So they do play it like that. But what they did do at this WWDC, when it just started now, is they've announced that they're going to their own silicon. So what does that mean? If anyone's been around for a long time, there was, and you would definitely know this, Malcolm, is when they migrated from the PowerPC chip to the Intel chip. And that was quite a bit of a migration. But what they did, they pulled that off in 2 years. So they changed their complete product line in 2 years to move from a PowerPC chip, which was a collaboration with Motorola and themselves back then, to an Intel chip. And we've been with the Intel roadmap for quite some time now, you know, the ICE processors and the dual two duos and things like that, taking me back. But now they've just announced that now they're going from Intel to their own silicon. So at the moment, they're running a particular chip in their iPads called the A12 Bionic. They've released a developer machine, which is a little Mac mini machine, which developers can get with an A12Z Bionic chip, which is their own chips. So one would hope that if they're doing this, it would make the product a little bit cheaper. I don't think so. I think they just keep that margin. But what is really nice is it's going to a smaller chip. So everything these computer manufacturers strive for is using less power. If it's using less power and wattage, then you can get more battery life. But the problem, the coexistence between that is when you're using less power, you don't get as much gigahertz out of the chip. But now they seem to be getting it right. They've been developing these things for 10 years. And anyone who's got an iPad is already experienced that, you know, they've got these chips already inside their iPad. So they're going to be putting their own silicon, their own custom silicon throughout their entire range. And they've given themselves, again, 2 years to get this done. And we will be seeing quite a substantial change. So all the software vendors will have to change what they're doing, and and make it compiled for Apple Silicon instead of Intel platform, and to help them do that. So what we used to have in the olden days is a little program called Rosetta, which was the translator between PowerPC and the Intel, and they're going to do the same again. It's Rosetta 2 from the Intel to the Apple Silicon. So that's where they're heading. It's very exciting. I really think, just to cap it off, is what they can do is, because people who write programs and applications in an iPad can easily just move them across to a Macintosh computer and not have all that different development, you know, having to recompile, reprogram, redo this for the same platform. So you can write across for a phone, for a watch, for the Mac. Everything will be written in pretty much the same language. Obviously, it's just screen sizing and resolutions that they have to cater for. But in essence, if it runs on an iPad, it will run on a Mac, which is, it kind of scares me a little bit. God, I love my iPad. I love it to bits. But I do still feel I like the layout and in what's happening with, on the Apple. And I wouldn't like it to see it go a bit iPad-ish. But, you know, there's some good things on an iPad and there's some great things on a Mac. So
it sort of brings us to a couple of other questions, because, you know, you've raised that their movement and migration across. And one of the most difficult things, and it's not only Mac, it's Mac and PC, it's across the board. One of the most difficult things, and I had a friend phone me up and said, and was on the PC side, so I was a little bit lost because that's not my forte. And he asked, what should he get? What should he upgrade to? And my comment to him was, at the speed things are moving at, and at the rate of technology and the programs that are being developed, you've got to go for the biggest you can afford, or the most power and the most processing power. So it brings me to that question, is one of the problems that we've all faced throughout the years. And I mean, I've got actually towers that I've sort of given away or use as coffee stands because the development seems to move faster than what we're able to afford to upgrade. What would your advice be to people who going to be buying new machines, or getting into or buying their first machine, or setting up a business? What should their core thinking be when looking at purchasing?
That's a good question, and for me, I don't want to sound too, ambitious in the way that this comes across, but I never understand why Apple did anything with a 128 gigabyte storage capacity. When we look at our smartphones today, a lot of them are starting off with 256, 512, and even a terabyte in a phone these days. But you can still buy, an entry-level Mac with 128 gigabytes of storage. For me, I always have a set couple of premiums. No less than 8 gigs of RAM, which has been solved now. So a new machine, minimum RAM comes with 8 gigs, which I suppose, Malcolm, you'd have to look at what what your end goal is. So if it was you as a photographer, as you know, making video films and all the other things that you do, you say, will this machine be to meet the needs of that? And if it does, then a little bit more for then the upcoming system upgrade. So every time we have a system upgrade, a Mac OS upgrade, it always tends to be a little bit more hungrier than the last. Not by much, and hopefully, again, just touching back to the silicon issue, it's probably going to be more better for the machine, you know, and run smoother on their own chipset than it would for an Intel. So that might change a little bit for the upcoming couple of releases, what they do. But I would always look at what you need. If you've got someone who just wants to do some word processing and a bit of internet, you know, do you have to buy a Mac? You know, the latest iPads are probably more powerful than a Mac these days. So it's just getting that right balance of what you want to do. And if it is the Mac that you want to go for, I would always make sure that I have a bit of leeway or a little bit of fat on that chop to make sure that machine will last me, you know, for a good 7 or 8 years, in which most cases Macs, you know, people do argue at the cost of a Mac, and I think they're quite pricey. But at the end of the day, the longevity in an Apple machine, you know, they still write the software for Macs that are 7, 8 years old that you can still upgrade to this day and keep them going. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are still using an Apple for many, many years. So their return on investment over that time is good. So to coin what you're saying is, don't just get the minimum what you need, just spend that little bit more, because it is going to last you quite a bit longer than what a normal, what I would say a conventional PC. But hey, you know, I don't actually think you can buy a bad machine anymore. There was a time that, you know, if you mentioned PC, we would have ended this chat really quickly, because I was like, no, I don't want those. But I do think, you know, that they are out there. There's some really good PC and other manufacturers as well, and they're getting better. And I think this is a good reason why Mac needs to be, or Apple needs to be, always at the cutting edge doing their thing, and hopefully keeping innovation alive.
Yeah, look, it's you know, just it's sort of, and I see it in the photography side. You know, if I look at the moment, we've had this thing in the medium format where we've had phase one, which was, and Hasselblad, so the two Rolls Royces of medium format, and Fuji's come in and literally slashed the prices by almost a fifth, quarter to a fifth, and producing pretty much the same result. So I can see, you know, and that's the difficult thing with the computing side as well, is, you know, when looking at that spend, and I've got a G5 old tower that I still work on. I can't run the latest software though, so that's the bugbear on it, because it's a what they call a legacy machine, or whatever it is. So you can't run the latest softwares. And then the other thing, Mark, this whole new working from home environment and setting yourself up to have a home office. I see you're at home at the moment. I'm at home. We're all working from our home environments. I think companies are going to start allowing people to work more from home. When somebody's going to be doing this, we're going to obviously need Zoom. We're going to need capacity, cloud storage, I presume. What would you advise with somebody who's going to be from their network setup and what they need at home with fiber to run a good home office?
Yeah, wow. Okay. I suppose depending on the field that you're dealing with, whether you're cloud-based or not, or, you know, where, but we can start with that. I think first and foremost is a reliable, good internet connection. So if you want to do anything from home, a reliable and good internet connection. The second is a reasonable barrier if you have children, to stop them coming to bother you. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, so good internet. I would say a good, if you're going to do these online meetings as such, and in this case we're using Zoom, which is fantastic. There's a lot of talk about whether it's safe, whether the Chinese are listening to us, but, you know, at the end of the day, nothing we're saying now, I'm happy for them to listen to us. But Zoom, I find, is a really good medium for doing online meetings. It handles it very well. You don't get very much crackle or breakup on it, providing, again, if your internet's good. Another thing is, I would probably say, and it's from a personal thing, is security. it's a big issue out there. So, you know, when you move to home, you haven't got these enterprise level Wi-Fi systems that they may be running back at the office. You know, if you're a big corporate and things like that, they may be using Cisco. And, you know, for us at home, that's ridiculous. We can't go and put Cisco access points in and different types of things like that. They're really expensive. So the best thing that you can do, depending on what you're doing to keep your work safe, because you never know who's listening outside, and there's a lot of people that can wirelessly try and hack your Wi-Fi. So there's some precautions you can take, but it's all around security. Most people, if data is of the secure nature, I would definitely look at using VPN. So you can get a smallish type router that can handle a VPN or many VPN connections coming into your office. I would suggest that anyone who's doing it and they've got their workforce out in the field or at home, like we are now, they invest and just make sure that everyone's connecting to the office, and the office servers that may be still at the office, or they could be cloud-based. We could talk about that too. But if they have to connect to the office, do it securely over a VPN type network, which is basically, in a nutshell, what it does is it's almost making a cable directly to your office, which is secure, that no one can look into. But when we're going out through, even though we're going out through the ISPs, it puts it in a little tunnel or a little safe that goes down the line, and so no one can get into it. And it's encrypted on this end and it's decrypted on the other end, and that's how the security works, just loosely in a nutshell. But that's the best way. So you've got to be secure for your enterprise. You've got to have a good, reliable internet connection. And lastly, like we were saying, is everyone to agree on what type of video conferencing platform that you use. And there are a few of them out there, but Zoom's really good. BlueJeans, Skype is dying. Yeah. Many people are going to Teams or Slack. So you know, those are really good alternatives out there, but I really like Zoom as well.
Yeah, Zoom, look, it's working amazing. And do you see that eventually, I mean, we were chatting about docking stations and things the other day. Yeah. We were talking about and looking at where business is going, and do you think companies will eventually start putting their work on the cloud, and wherever you're working, that you don't necessarily need to have everything, you can just have a system that literally docks in to the cloud, and then you pick up your work from wherever you are, and run your operating system running through the cloud?
Yeah, without a doubt. What they class as on-premise servers, you know, your large storage arrays and your RAIDs and your servers sitting at your office, is certainly becoming a thing of the past. The migration to the cloud is happening even much faster than it was before. As an example, most people's office, you know, that we used to have an email server. You put an old PC down or an old Mac, and you run your email servers there, or you've got to hook up to your local, domain authority, where you've just got an email account, a POP email account. Now everyone's moving to Exchange or Google. The Google also has a nice platform, but they're all in the cloud. The point that I'm making is everything is going to the cloud, and even your storage. So with things like Exchange now, you get 1 terabyte of personal storage. You can get OneDrive online. So everything is moving to the cloud. We look at it in software subscriptions. So Adobe no longer have this package-based, you know, I can remember installing Adobe when you get all those CDs. You know, I don't think I've touched a CD in a number of years, but everything's downloadable. It's subscription-based, going to cloud, and everyone's storage will be going to cloud. So there's, without a doubt, Malcolm, everything will be based in the cloud later on. I find it very rare or unique that somebody would actually have something at their own office that they're doing. And yeah, we talked the other day. I think the way the power's going in certain machines and things like that, we will be getting things like your phone or your iPad, which will be your main computer. And when you come into an environment, there will be docks, and you just put it down, and that will then extend to a keyboard or a larger screen and things like that. And that's how we work, you know. So the power of your computer will be in your pocket, you know, because it's almost there now. If we look at some of the power that we've got already in our hand when we you know, call a loved one or something like that on our phone, it's crazy what you've got in your own possession to be able to do that. And to a lesser degree, you know, the latest iPad is more powerful than the fastest Mac right now.
Really? Geez, that's incredible.
It is.
What a scary thought. And then
it is.
yeah, and I look, I presume, I mean, just thinking, you know, I watched my son, his friend came along with one of his VR headsets, and I put this thing on, and he had a game, and I think I was standing, and then it was a roller coaster where you know, obviously follow this thing around in this VR headset, and it was absolutely ridiculous. I nearly fell over while I was watching it, because the next thing I was balancing like this to try and so I presume that you know, the tech most probably will start eventually moving to where we will be living in virtual realities, so we can work from anywhere and see, you know, if you're looking at a site that you're possibly building, you can actually have your VR headset while somebody's walking around. So I'd imagine we must be moving in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the gamers are already getting there. And like you say, I've tried a little bit of this VR, and it does kind of make you giddy. I can remember a number of years ago, we used to go into these Cine 360 things, and everyone used to stand up, and like this whole wall was immersed in this dome with like, as you mentioned, the roller coaster, and you come out and you're swaying, and it's crazy. But a big question that I get is many people ask me and said, Mark, you know, like, is it augmented reality or is it VR? So just quickly to explain the differences is with VR is you're immersed in the world or in the environment. So it's really good, like you said, if you wanted to do a building design and you've made it in a VR world, you can actually go and walk through that world and do that. Hence the reason it's really good for gamers, because you know, you're completely surrounded. The sound and stuff is coming from your headset, and you're in that world. You are with the zombies. You are with, you know, your fighter squadron, or whatever the case may be, when you're doing it. And there's amazing merit for what they do in VR. However, on the flip side of that, with augmented reality, so where before you can be in VR, you can be swimming with the sharks, and with augmented reality, the shark can pop out on your coffee table, and you can see what it looks like in your own environment. And so for people like furniture designers, or, you know, what would this TV look like, or what would this look like, you can do an augmented reality of the TV and pop it on your wall and say, well, this is what it will look like in this space. Well, they're actually going to get it. So marketing opportunities and the power of those two combined is amazing. And I think it's still a bit early yet, and they're developing a lot of it currently at the moment, but it's really growing. And the augmented reality stuff, I think a little while ago, I seen a Lego thing that they had for the kids, and you take a picture of a Lego building, and it puts it into a city, and they can do this. And they can see all of this stuff on their iPads, and I think the learning capabilities of it as well. And, you know, for schools, for this, you know, for people that don't actually need the equipment and the actual physical things, you can actually look at it. You know, if you're teaching human biology and things like that, you can go and look inside things, and oh, it's amazing. I think the possibilities are endless when we get to it. And I think unfortunately, I think I might be too old by the time it gets really, really out there. But
no, the speed of technology, I don't think so, Mark. I think it's we're not that old.
Probably next year, Mark. Yeah, no, I'm getting there.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just all moving so fast. I think, Mark, we're sort of running to our 30-minute limit that I try and keep to. Just in ending off, is there anything that you can, you know, I think two things are just two questions just to end off that maybe if you could answer. First of all, if somebody's wanting to get into the IT world or your side of the world, the computer world, what would you advise them to do? And secondly, the last thing is just a little bit of advice to all of us who have Macs and PCs and whatever else we have for our computer world. What you might think that we might need to look at going forward to be aware of that's going to come out, or something maybe that you've seen, or any technology you think might change going forward.
Yeah, okay. That's quite a big end question.
It's a big end question, I know. I've got to drop a bomb on you.
I often laugh as, you know, if someone says, you know, Mark, how do I get into IT? And I just say, don't. Go and be an accountant or something like that. There's more money in accountancy. But no, at the end of the day, if you want, I look for a certain type of person. You know, if you see someone, and it's a bit old school, but you've got to have a passion for technology. You've got to have a passion for wanting to do it more than it's a job that I think that I can do. I think there was a craze back a little while ago where they said, oh, I want to be an MCSE, Microsoft certified engineer, and there's so many of them around. It's just it kind of made the certificate of that a little bit less powerful. But have a good passion, be willing to learn, be willing to put in the time. And, it's not about, oh, if I've got spare time, let me jump onto Snapchat or Facebook and stuff. Then start reading again. So one thing I've learned, and had I have known this back in the beginning, I'd have probably joined the army instead. But one thing I've learned is we never stop learning in this field. And I'm always taking exams. I'm always learning new things. And if I can learn something new every day, I'm a happy guy. It doesn't matter how small it is. And I've been around, as you mentioned, for quite some time. But I'm never foreign to learning something, and I'm never foreign to someone being able to tell me something as well. So I'm open. I like to give information. I like to share information and help people as much as I can. But you've got to have that persona of wanting to learn, the hunger to learn, and the willingness to share. You can't. It's very difficult when a lot of IT people they like to play close to their chest, and they don't like to give away information. I find that very counterproductive. So share, be open, talk. And if you don't know something, admit that you don't know it. But try and find out, we don't know everything. And so that's the first one. Advice on the second one, for me, don't go looking for these tools that clean your Mac and do that. The Mac ecosystem is absolutely amazing. And what it can do is protect you. So I'm not saying you don't need any virus protection or anything like that. Most of the time when we get virus protection on a Mac, it's to protect your PC cousins. So if you send a file to a friend who's running a PC, it may not affect us, but it could affect them, and they may be taken by surprise because they've sent, it's been sent by you or whatever, and they don't bother like scanning an attachment or doing something like that. So just be very careful. There's certainly a lot of cybercrime these days. Don't answer. So a big one for my mum, if someone phones you up, don't give them details. Do not randomly click on links in emails. So I would say in this day and age, currently at the moment, it's really big. So be aware of cybercrime. And if any doubt comes to you, never type a link in an email to follow and go and reset or change your password. Open your web browser and type that URL yourself. That honestly, it's simple, but you'd be surprised how many people fall into the trap. And these pirates, was what I call it, thieves out there, are very, very clever. They're very smart. And I've been to some sites that look like the real deal. Yeah. And that's even from me. But a lot of the time, if you get an email from someone, if you hover over the address, you can actually reverse it, and it shows you where it's come from. And it will be like, I want to steal your money.com, instead of it's coming from one of your colleagues at work or one of your friends. So it's those type of things. Just be wary of the, fix it yourself applications out there. If it's free, generally there's a reason it's free, because they're stealing your data. Yeah, and things like that. So just be careful. So my tip for what you're doing now is just be safe. Yeah. I think this is a great ending in our time that we're in.
And it's so true that, Mark. I mean, look, it's great advice, and we constantly being, I've just seen a whole lot of things where people have, on one of the companies that I work with, where they've sent out warnings where they've changed just the dash to a dot to a dash. So you look at it and you think, oh, it's the same email, but it's actually a completely different email. They just literally changed a dash to a dot. And then, so one's got to be so careful. So guys, I mean, there's some great insights from Mark on what's happening, and some great advice. And I think, we must use it and really be aware of what's happening out there, and be careful with the security, as Mark. And for those of you wanting to get into IT, have a passion for it. Go out, like we've said, with all the different businesses and people that I've spoken to, whether you're in art or whether you're in photography or advertising or IT, you've got to have a passion for what you're doing, and you've got to live it. You've got to become part of what you're doing. So Mark, thanks so much, and thanks for your time. And Look forward to chatting.
Very welcome, Malcolm. It's nice to chat to you yet again, and we must do it again sometime soon.